What is GMAT and how to be ready for this test? How many times do I need to try? And how long could it take to be ready for the GMAT? I will answer all these questions today. Stay with me. Let's go! Hello everybody, thank you for visiting my channel. Today we will speak with you about one of the most important and famous tests if you apply to best universities or business school. So it doesn't matter what school you choose, Columbia Business School, Wharton School of Business, Dartmouth Stock, Harvard, Stanford, any other institutions. You have to pass GMAT and you have to get at least 650 or maybe 700 score on your GMAT test. Well, let's speak a little bit about the score because it's a very tricky question. Many schools could tell you that we don't require high GMAT, we are looking for your personality, how good you are and what was your extracurricular activities, something like this. But based on my 15-year experience in this area, I can say that it's a little bit not true. So they are looking for your GMAT score and they are spending a lot of efforts to get as much as possible students with a very high score. Why they are doing this? Well, because all rankings like Forbes, Businessweek, Financial Times and some other, they are using this information to put different score on the different level in this ranking. So besides all other factors like what is the amount of salary you have after MBA program or any other factor, they are using GMAT score as a very famous criteria to put school on a different level. So in 90% of cases, if you have, let's say, 650 score and someone have, let's say, 720 and you have a pretty equal profiles, they will choose another person. So I don't trust all this information from schools that they are looking for a personality only and they don't look deeper in your GMAT score. I passed GMAT 4 times and my last score was 740 and I was admitted to several business schools. And what kind of experience I got after this? First of all, that you need a lot of practice. You cannot be very well prepared if you didn't do your home job, if you didn't meet different kind of questions, if you didn't practice a lot, if you wasn't ready quickly and very efficiently answer all questions you will find on GMAT. You will have like about 3.5–4 hours for your GMAT test. By the way, the length of the test was was decreased actually 2 months ago, and very soon in 2018 you will meet a new test with a new length. But what is important that you need to spend 1.5 minutes for every question. So it doesn't matter we're talking about quantitative part or verbal part, you have to be very quickly and efficiently. And why schools are so crazy about this GMAT? Because your GMAT score demonstrates your ability to succeed in a business school environment. It's one of the most important idea of this test. So it doesn't measure your IQ or how bright you are or how clever you are. Every year, about 100,000 students in the United States send in their scores to best business schools and universities, and about 400 different schools accepting this result. It's not only about business school. A lot of other universities or institutions in the United States dealing with the GMAT. So last time when I visited GMAT Summit in Washington, DC, I heard a lot of different news about this test, and I will share very soon with you some updates about the test and what they changed or will change very soon. Okay, GMAT consists of two big parts. The first part is called quantitative. It's a kind of math that you actually studied in high school, and it's not very hard, but it's a kind of question that you have to complete very fast. So this is the most important problem in a quantitative part of GMAT. The second part of GMAT, it's called verbal part, and usually it consists of three different sections. And it could be a little bit tricky and hard and challenging for everybody who is not a native speaker like me. And when I did my preparation for verbal part, I spent a lot of time for critical reasoning part, because it's not very typical, it's not very common used all over the world to make logical conclusions in English. So this could be a challenge for you if you are a non-native speaker. Please consider this. By the way, verbal part of GMAT consists of three sections that I told you about. The first part is reading comprehension, and it could be a little bit hard for you if you don't like big passages of text. You didn't do this kind of exercises before. The second part is called a sentence correction, and I would say that it's a kind of grammar, it's a kind of English, but unfortunately it's a kind of GMAT English. So you could find some non-very typical grammatical structures on a GMAT test, and what you have to do, you have just remember that for GMAT is okay, but in real life it could be very different. So I recommend you to spend more time for reading comprehension and critical reasoning section. Sentence correction is a little bit easier because we are dealing a lot every day with the grammar of English, so I'm sure you don't need so much time for sentence correction part. And two additional parts, smaller parts of GMAT is integrated reasoning, analytical writing essays. So what does it mean? Analytical writing essay is a kind of essay you have to complete, you have to write. So usually it could take like 30 minutes. By the way, you can choose what sections you will start from, for example, verbal, quantitative, essays, or integrated reasoning. But it's a little bit different topic of our YouTube channel. So when you're writing this essay, you don't need to make a composition. You don't need to write like a Byron or someone who is really famous. You just have to use some specific rules for analytical writing essays. And the last part that was introduced several years ago, integrated reasoning. It's a mix of data and graphs that you have to analyze, and based on this information you have to find the right answer. So the last part that was introduced several years ago, it's integrated reasoning, and it's a mix of data and graphs that you have to analyze, and based on this information you have to answer some specific questions. I highly recommend to spend some time for this part of GMAT because it's not very easy, and it's as I said, it's a mix of data and analytical information. But what is more important, that many schools pay a lot of attention to this part of the GMAT. By the way, you can ask me, if you're executive, if you're managing people and you are, let's say, 32-year-old and you're a senior in your company, so do you have to pass GMAT for executive MBA program? My question is, it depends. In some cases you have to get a GMAT score, but what is good that several years ago GMAT introduced a new type of a test of GMAT test. It's called executive assessment, and it's a little bit smaller. It's not so big test, but it's the same GMAT test for executives. In this case, you will need less time, but you definitely need to spend some time for preparation for this test. And any famous executive MBA program, for example, MIT Sloan or Chicago Booth or let's say Stanford Sloan program, they require some kind of GMAT, regular GMAT test or executive assessment test. So in both in both cases you have to do something. So you can check this information or ask me. I will provide you with additional point of your start. What kind of resources can you use to prepare for GMAT? First of all, you can use official software that GMAT provide you on the website. You can use official books that you can buy. It's called Official Guide. They're introducing new guide every year, but unfortunately it's not enough. And all the questions they put in all this book, they're a little bit outdated. So I highly recommend to use any resources you can find. I highly recommend to use Kaplan book, Manhattan, Princeton, anything you will find. We are also having a special software that's called GoGMAT, so I highly recommend to check it, and you will get 5,000 different questions and quizzes specifically for this purpose. So if you have any other question about resources that you can use, please put a comment and I will send you several links.
So you will see here a variety of different books and publishers that do some books about GMAT, and also a pretty famous book from Manhattan Prep. So you see how many different materials you can buy here online to be ready for GMAT. If you like my video, if you have any questions, please put comments below, and I will help you to be ready for GMAT. And please subscribe for my channel. Thank you for your visiting my channel. Have a good day.